Okay, everybody, welcome to our latest installation of Thoughts Explored.
Good morning, everybody.
I always have to remember it's not as we fall asleep, it's Thoughts Explored. So, um, do you know what we're going to talk about today?
No, you have not told me, so this is going to be entirely extemporaneous.
It's pretty funny because I asked her, I said, Lex, do you want me to tell you what the topic is? And she said, no, surprise me. But she was kind of scurrying around this morning in the kitchen with the zucchini muffins. So,
I was doing the daily muffin making. Got up early this morning at 5:30 to get everything baked before the heat struck. So I feel good about that.
before the heat struck and before the heat stroke.
Got some gardening done.
So, I've been thinking about this idea of how people like take shortcuts to get things done.
Yes, I
And
do.
I was just thinking about that because I don't know if this phrase is right, but many times I get it wrong. So
You crossing your words?
it's so I think it goes something like, "Oh shoot, I think I forgot it already." But I'll come back to that. But I guess the idea is, what did you?
I can think of a number of phrases off the top of my head about like shortcuts, kind of
Uh-huh.
like a stitch in time saves nine. Is
Like
that
the
what you're thinking
only
of?
like the oh, shoot.
Haste makes waste.
No, it's something about going through the only way. The only way. But never mind. I'll have to play the thing and.
You'll get back to it.
Yeah, I have my thoughts. So anyway, what do you think about that?
About taking shortcuts?
Uh huh.
Well, I think that when something is known well enough, like if it's a task,
Mm-hmm.
then a well placed shortcut is a really useful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're taking a short, but like so many things we talk about, another thing that's coming to my mind even as I'm speaking is that there are shortcuts depending on your motivation and your intention of why you're taking a shortcut. If it's a task that you do regularly and the shortcut is a thing of beauty, that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing. If it's something that you are intentionally trying to um, quicken or do too quickly or just get through it, get done with it, then sometimes it can be a bit tricky.
And how? Why would you say that?
Well, because
Why is it tricky? I mean,
if it's something that you don't do all the time, like just a simple task,
yeah.
it can be tricky because you may be missing some of the key components unwittingly. When
Right.
your intention is just to like, oh my god, let me just hurry up and get this done.
Right.
But it all comes down to the whole idea of what is it we're talking about?
Right.
A simple task or reaching out to a friend that is sick or in need, kind of thing.
Yes.
You don't want to take a shortcut with that sort of
Yeah.
sort of larger situation. Does that make sense?
That's what it is. Okay, so now I got it. I had to listen back. Yes, what you said, I like that. It's like the path forward is always through, I feel like. So straight through,
Instead of
going
oh,
around, sometimes there's little detours and things like that, or what people might think is a shortcut, but it's not really a
well, the
shortcut.
going around something hardly ever seems like a shortcut to me
Right.
because you're actually putting in more. Well, again, depending on what you're even talking about.
Well, I mean, I guess sometimes when you take these shortcuts, and I don't really have anything specific in mind, but sometimes when you take these shortcuts, you miss the whole process. Is just what you were saying. It's like things that you really need to learn, really things that you need to experience.
Right.
You miss that uh, because you've got this, and I'm doing air quotes now, shortcut.
Y'all are missing the visuals here. Here, sitting at the dining room table this morning.
Air quotes, like shortcut. I Yeah, it would be good to have an example.
Do you think that? Let me ask you this: do you think that is the phrase "a workaround" the same as a shortcut?
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking about it as if those are the same.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think sometimes when you're looking at all of the steps to a particular thing, I really should have an example.
Well, again, we can even like make two different categories. One being a concrete, simple, routine task,
Right.
that you're doing, versus something that you are trying to learn or work in the realm of interpersonal communication, or that kind of much more complex
Right.
theme.
Yeah.
So those are two sort of
buckets.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that when you're talking about the sort of more complex theme, you stand a great chance of missing the learn, or missing some of the gold in the experience, and maybe the experience is fine, but it's short of the good stuff, the juicy stuff, the juicy bits.
I mean, and I feel like you might have to go back and like even repeat it because you haven't taken all of the steps. Like you've cut out a few, and so then you have to go back.
Right.
So for some reason, I mean, I guess I would think about it like this. It's like when you have the study guides that give you like the cliff notes.
Right.
The cliff notes to like a book or something.
So you don't really have to like read The Sun Also Rises. You can just read the cliff notes.
Right. But there's something about the experience of reading or listening to something in its entirety that you don't get from the cliff notes of a book or
if you do the
audio book. Yeah. And so I feel like at some point you're going to have to go back and get that, because that particular thing is being presented to you for a reason, I feel like.
Yeah, sometimes it's just your own, yes, it could be any reason.
Yeah,
of your own making, or something that is put upon you.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be anything that, so with that particular, whatever that reason is, I think at least my belief is that when you have these experiences, that's what's informing you every step of the way. So if you're cutting out some of those steps, then I feel like you have to go back.
You're missing a lot of the nuance of it.
Yeah. It might be not repeating that one, but it's going to be another experience that you're given that I think you have to go back and get what's supposed to be absorbed.
And why do you think? What are some of the intentions? Do you think that people desire or choose or seek a workaround or a shortcut?
I think especially now, in the world in which we live, there's a lot of scanning. There's a lot of not really wanting to take the time
to have full comprehension.
Yeah. I think
that's a good point.
We've even stopped talking on the phone to each other. So we're doing texts, we're doing messages, and the meaning is sometimes distorted through those forms.
And that's you just came up with a very good, for instance, with that, the shortcut of a text. So often when you don't take the time to have the actual conversation, even if it's on the phone, even if it isn't face to face, you're missing voice nuance, you're missing facial expression, you're missing, all of those things, which potentially can be huge.
Yeah.
I mean, a text that's just like, "Oh, don't forget to pick up the butter at the store." Whatever. That's a great
Right.
shortcut.
Right. Yeah.
But if it is more meaningful or deeper, or where the nuances will be sorely missed.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of what happens with communication right now is people don't necessarily want to talk to each other. So it's funny to me. It always amazed me that you might call somebody, the phone will ring, but then if you text them, boom, you get a response right away, right? It's like, what's the difference? I mean, the medium is
It's like
it's the same. It's sort of like the same medium because everybody has a phone with
text capability.
Yeah, and phone.
But when people choose the text instead of and I'm frequently the one that chooses to text instead of call. And now let me examine, why do I do that? I don't think of it as a shortcut necessarily, but a lot of times it does end up being shorter.
Yep. Or sometimes that person is not a phone person.
Or sometimes
for this example.
Or sometimes that they are, and you don't want a situation where very well that it's going to be a 2-hour phone conversation. Yeah. Potentially a joyful 2-hour phone conversation, but if you don't have the time because you're on your way to work or you're.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
it definitely gives me something to think about.
Right.
And then the other thing we could say is that when you do have a rote task that you're doing all the time, like doing the laundry or something, that's when it's great to have your shortcuts or your workarounds.
Oh, yeah.
Because then that allows time.
Yes.
So that maybe then you will call somebody instead of merely texting them, because you've saved yourself all this time by doing your rote tasks, with shortcuts or workarounds to still get the job done. But
that's a good point. Yep.
Just had to put that little extra spin in there.
Well, yeah. There's no absolutes or, everything is a continuum. So there's a place for everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I thought that this was fun, and thank you for doing our podcast before I get hot and irritable. We're expecting a very hot day again today, and by 2 p.m, I'm usually on the irritable train. But I'm going to try and watch out for that.
I'm going to watch out for that.
I'm going to try and watch out for that today.
Watch out for that irritable train. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in once again. It is like the last days of July.
Yeah.
Right now, I can't believe it. We're pretty much in August.
We've had some great times this month when you've been home.
Oh.
Yeah. I love you.
I love you too, my sweet.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.